Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your number one source for the latest in WWE news and straightforward analysis. Are you ready to get this thing going?
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Then let's get this show started right now.
Well, it is time to not hear from me, but hear from you, the listener, who took the time to call, took the time to email, and let's not waste any time. Let's get right to the point and jump into our first email. And by the way, you want to participate and get your thoughts on the air? Email us at realwwepodcast@gmail.com or call us at 518-952-0247. So, okay, the first email is from G-Man, and let's see what G-Man writes. G-Man, who I assume is a he, says, "Hey Matt, it's the G-Man. Been a few weeks, but I now make my return to the mailbag. So on Raw, Naomi and Lana pretty much won a pointless number one contenders match for the tag titles months ago, and they've pretty much forgotten. I heard Lacey Evans was actually supposed to beat Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship and then face Charlotte at WrestleMania, but now it's mostly going to be Charlotte against Asuka at Mania. And I'll say, if Asuka turns heel, I'm sure she's going to keep that championship, because for a good 2 months now, Asuka has been booked so bad, I think her turning heel is the best for her. On SmackDown, I love the Street Profits, but can Angela Dawkins stop screaming, yeah, every dang second? Apollo Crews as a heel is good, or is so good, I think he's going to have a great 2021. Also, can Reginald stop hitting on Sasha? It's getting to the point where I will find a way to go to Florida, contact Adam Pearce or Sonya Deville to book a match against him on SmackDown for the honor of the greatest SmackDown Women's Champion of all time, the beautiful boss Sasha Banks. All right, man, you take it easy. Have a good rest of the week." Thank you, G-Man. Lot of stuff there. Now, I'll touch on some of the stuff. Number one, Asuka turning heel may be the best thing for her. You're right. Because fans are starting to sour, I believe, on Asuka. And I don't mean that in a long-term way that she's doomed, right? Her career's over. No. I just think for this particular run that they've seen her be champion for such a long time. Since May. That's a long time, guys. That's 10 months she's been champion, of which she's defended the belt, and they've focused on it about 6 of those 10 months at best, maybe less, maybe 5, maybe half the time they focused on the belt. The other half, you're like, oh, that's right, Raw has a women's champion. And you're like, well, why isn't Asuka doing anything with it? It's become, unfortunately for Asuka, she's kind of collateral damage in what should have been a very successful run for her, but has turned into just really a disaster. And I think her turning heel I think that'd be interesting. You know, I know that I mentioned a month or two ago that we all saw this match coming. We all know it's going to be Asuka versus Charlotte. But for the roles to be switched, I think it could be interesting for Asuka to be the one who's heel. Because I think most people feel Charlotte's going to be heel and Asuka's going to be face and Charlotte's going to turn on Asuka. I think it'd be interesting to, at least, if you're going to do this match that all fans knew was going to happen, at least maybe try to switch the roles. I'm all for it. I'm just saying from experience that Charlotte's a better heel than she is a babyface, but maybe she's learned a thing or two in her time off. I don't know. I'm willing to give it a chance. I'm not saying it's impossible. But yeah, I agree. Another thing I want to touch on, Angela Dawkins screaming that's just what they do. Angela Dawkins screams, yeah, as much as we have him say fam. They kind of go one and the same. But as far as Reginald, yeah, I already went off on that. Apollo Crews, this is hopefully a sign of things to come, really good things to come. I don't understand the accent that he suddenly adopted, because that's what his heritage, how his heritage speaks, right? Like how his family grandfather speaks. He says that's his true voice. I really doubt he's been faking an American accent for the last 20 years. Okay. I very much believe that was his true voice we heard. And then all of a sudden he's adopting this Nigerian accent. It's a little weird. I've never seen anyone take it back. It's bizarre. But it is what it is. And I'm not ranting about it. It's just the strangest thing I've ever seen in terms of Normally it goes the other way with people losing accents out of nowhere. In this case, Apollo Crews is just deciding to adopt one. Whatever. But I love the fact that Apollo Crews is being showcased, and he has, I think, a really good 2021 in front of him. Couldn't agree more. So, G-Man, thank you for your email, and I'm glad to hear from you once again. Okay, keep those emails going here. This one is from, let's see, Danny from Newcastle. He says, "Hi, Matt, it's Danny from Newcastle again. What are your thoughts about CM Punk being in AEW? If it is true or not, and do you think he's going to clash with Paul White, Big Show? Also, what do you think they're going to do with Bobby Lashley next as champion? And do you think that someone from NXT like Dexter Lumis or Ciampa should come up to the main roster and go for the United or Intercontinental Championship to face either Riddle or Big E?" Okay, so I know you have other stuff. Let me address that because a lot of questions here. I don't think CM Punk will be in AEW anytime soon. I just, every time we think we've got CM Punk nailed down, nothing happens. Every time that we think, this has got to be it, I wouldn't touch, if I was CM Punk, I wouldn't go near a wrestling promotion until fans are back. Why would you come back for a Thunderdome with a false reaction, a manufactured reaction, or AEW with very limited fan interaction? It doesn't make sense. I wouldn't come back until they're full blown, everything's back to normal, thousands of people packed into arenas, and we can get back to our lives and remember it as it was before the black hole that was 2020 and now into 2021. So I don't believe anything right now. I'll believe more maybe if I see things return to complete normalcy and I start to hear rumblings. I mean, then you might have my attention. Bobby Lashley. So do I need him to face somebody like Dexter or Ciampa? I mean, after WrestleMania, maybe. Assuming he keeps the belt. I hope Bobby Lashley retains the belt against Drew McIntyre. As much as I love Drew McIntyre, we've seen it. We've been there. We've done that. I want to see this monster of a man plow through Drew McIntyre, only to have to face maybe Brock Lesnar. Tommaso Ciampa, sure, he could come up. Could it be a legitimate threat? It would take some time for fans who don't know who he is to believe that he could. There are other guys, like you said, Dexter. He could be the one. I'm rewatching that show, by the way, so it's weird you mentioned Dexter. But side note, if anybody hasn't watched the TV show Dexter, I understand it's like 10 years old, but they're coming out with season 9 this year after a 10-year hiatus. My God, go watch Dexter. Okay, I'm like itching to get this podcast done so I can go finish the show for like the second or third time. Anyway, do we need NXT guys? Yes, we do. I think yes, we do. The answer is yes. There is a very, very thin roster on Raw, especially babyface talent on Raw. Take Drew McIntyre out. Who's left? Answer me. I mean, it's a tough mountain to climb right now. So yeah, we could use some new blood. I'm all for both those guys coming up to the roster, especially after WrestleMania, because WrestleMania is just kind of like wiping the slate clean. Let's start a new year. So I'm with you. Okay, you go on to say, also, I have an opinion on the multi-man matches as well. Yes, they can create some huge moments, bringing some huge superstars together. However, a DQ on or off rule does work for some, not all multi-star matches. I think what WWE needs to do is ask fans first before they do these huge matches and ask the fans' response. Do you think that's a good idea? Let me know. Thank you for the mailbags every week. Stay safe. See you next week. Danny from Newcastle. Well, thank you, Danny. Same to you. I think they should do it on a case-by-case basis. I agree. I agree that WWE should do this on a case-by-case with multi-person DQ matches. I don't need every multi-person match being the same. But forever, it's just been by default, they're all no DQ, which seriously makes no sense. None. I've already outlined how that can be fixed with just rubbing two brain cells together of how to fix that. But your premise of asking fans, I mean, that gets dangerous because they're setting a precedent by doing that. Because then the fans are always going to expect the WWE is going to ask them. And when do they ask them? When do they not? When does they get a response from fans that they were hoping they didn't get? Now they get a book for the opposite. I don't need a Taboo Tuesday or a Cyber Sunday every time they have a multi-person match. Maybe what you're saying is big matches. Like I'm talking, and what you mean is you say huge matches. I'm assuming that's what you mean, like pay-per-view style massive matches, like for the championship, that kind of thing. Not just a random triple threat on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown. So in those instances, I wouldn't mind more fan interaction being brought back. I really wouldn't. I don't know why they never brought back a Taboo Tuesday, a Cyber Sunday. I think it's a hell of a concept. They always talk about listening to the fans, and yet they take these pay-per-views away from the schedule, yet they are there to fulfill the purpose of being fan interactive and listening to your fans. So it's very contrasting of what they're doing here. I know we haven't had a Cyber Sunday or Taboo Tuesday in many years, but I agree. Yeah, I agree to a very limited degree, very limited. But I would agree that also all multi-person matches should not be all no DQ. It's stupid. There's no other more eloquent way to put it. Danny, thank you for your question. Looking forward to next week. Okay, where are we at? Here we go. Terry from Tennessee. Terry writes, what are your thoughts on Lashley at Mania, since it seems to be clear... I'm sorry. You said, since it seems to not be clear as far as an opponent cut out for him, hopefully it's Lesnar, and my prediction for Roman versus Edge is that somehow Jey Uso will get involved and get thrown from ringside, and towards the end of the match, Jimmy Uso will make his return and cause Edge to lose the match. And I would like to think that Naomi needs a character change and needs to be put in the faction with the Bloodline, since she's married in with them. And the last thing I find is it weird with the way Paul Heyman looks at Roman and how he hands him his title or microphone. I don't know if it's being oversold. I think... Thanks for reading my comments and keep up the good work. Terry, thank you. So, your last thing first about Paul Heyman, the way he hands Roman Reigns the championship, hands him the microphone. I think it's a nice little nuanced change from what he did with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar was just a monster beast of a man. You knew what he was. Paul Heyman was the advocate for your reigning, defending, undisputed, the whole thing. And he had fear for Brock Lesnar when Brock Lesnar was, in his beast mode, but he didn't do these things for Brock. He didn't grovel at his feet and hand the microphone like a servant. But that is what speaks to Roman's character rather than Brock's heel character. That's the difference. Those are the little things that differentiate Roman's heel character as Paul Heyman is managing him from Brock Lesnar's heel character. Roman is a monster, but a quiet, just arrogant, ruling with fear type of monster. He's the quiet monster. He's not the outright beast that'll tear up the announce table, throw the ring across the arena. Like, that's Brock Lesnar. Roman Reigns is the quiet anger, and sometimes the quiet anger can be much more intimidating. But I like it. I like what Paul Heyman's doing. It's just those little things like you just caught. I like it. It changes things up. It shows that we should grovel at his feet. And I love it. I love it. As far as your booking for Edge and Roman at Mania, could Jimmy Uso, as Jey Uso's banned from ringside, be the one to come in and screw Edge? If it wasn't WrestleMania, I would say yes. Because do we really want to come out of the pay-per-view thinking, wow, great match between the two, but Jimmy Uso's the guy we're talking about? No disrespect for the guy, but Jimmy Uso's not a WrestleMania main eventer. He's never been one, and I don't think he should be, out of the blue, the talking piece of WrestleMania. It should be, I think, either Edge winning or Roman soundly defeating Edge. It should be a really a triumphant return story, a feel-good story, or a, oh my God, I can't believe Roman Reigns is still champion story. I don't think I would want to be talking about, the last thing I see of Jimmy Uso. I get what you're saying, and I've been waiting for it too. I don't think that is deserving of WrestleMania. I think it's deserving of maybe really like any other pay-per-view other than WrestleMania. Maybe they set the stage for that at Fastlane. I don't know. Maybe there's something that is done with Jimmy coming in and helping. And yeah, I just don't want to be talking about Jimmy Uso after WrestleMania goes off the air. As far as Naomi needing a character change, boy does she. I'm not saying, look, I like her entrance. Her entrance is very visually appealing. It's fun. It's, she finds new things to make glow on her body or her outfit or whatever, and that's great. She feels kind of like an older version of Bianca Belair, doesn't she? I don't know. They've kind of got similar attitudes, and it just feels as if Bianca Belair is an upgraded Naomi, doesn't it? But to your point about Naomi, she does need something. I think that something may not even be a character change in terms of heel babyface or even a new entrance music or new entrance gear. I think she's got that all covered. I think what she needs is a damn microphone. I think that's what a lot of superstars need, is a microphone. I think that could benefit Billie Kay more. I think it could benefit the Riot Squad a hell of a lot more. You're right. But I think also, in this case, Naomi could benefit from holding a damn microphone. But yeah, as far as everything else you talked about here with Lashley, man, I've already gone over what I think Lashley's going to do at WrestleMania. I think he'll beat Drew McIntyre. I really do. I hope he does. I do. I don't hate Drew McIntyre. I think he's great, but it's Lashley's time. Alrighty, let's continue on. Let's see how many more I have. Not too many more. And then we'll get to your email or your voicemails. Okay. This next email is from Anthony. And Anthony writes, hope all is well. This would be my first time sending a question for your mailbag episode. I got 2 questions. As Fastlane is right around the corner and then off to WrestleMania, a lot of people I'm very anxious and excited for The Fiend's return, but it also has me thinking, what's next with this feud after Orton is done? What do you think will be next for Randy Orton after this is over? Okay, so first question. What I think is next for The Fiend? I mean, God knows. The thing is, it's hard to even say that. It's hard to even predict. I would be lying if I had a confident answer. I don't think anyone does. Because WrestleMania is the ultimate reset of the roster. That's when a lot of people debut, is the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. I wish, I don't even know. Are they selling tickets for the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania? I hope they are. I haven't heard. I think it's just WrestleMania itself, the 2 nights. But I don't know. I mean, this has been going on for so long with Orton and The Fiend. I don't know what they're going to do without one another. And the thing is, too, I think it's easier to find an opponent for Randy than it is to find an opponent for The Fiend. Why? Because The Fiend targets people that did him wrong. Eventually, he's going to run out of people to attack, and he's going to run through his list of targets, and he's going to go, okay, well, so I've pretty much destroyed everyone's lives that have done me wrong in the past, which is the whole purpose of this character existing. So I guess I'm going to kind of just go back to being good old Bray Wyatt, Swamp Cult leader, or the Scary Kids show host. I don't know. I mean, so I think Randy Orton can work with anybody. Randy Orton can find a reason to attack somebody. The Fiend needs these specific reasons. So I don't know. That is a hell of a question. I don't have an answer to that. Again, after WrestleMania, we will see where the dust settles, and obviously it'll be much easier to see. But with a roster that could be reworked after WrestleMania with NXT call-ups or maybe trades from SmackDown to Raw, it's really hard to tell. Let's see what else. My next question. Do you think The Fiend will ever be pushed for a Universal Championship run? Yes, I do. I've noticed The Fiend and Alexa Bliss storyline is bringing a big audience. Shown on WWE's official YouTube channel that any video related to them are bringing a lot more views than for others, even in comparison Drew and Roman at times, whether it's promos or even matches. So the audience is definitely there, and I feel like if WWE wants to draw more eyes, it would be the way. This would be the way to go sooner than later. Oh, and not ruin this new evolved Fiend with a pointless loss to Goldberg. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about that anymore. It's something that should just be flashed from my memory, like, Men in Black. I just want to be flashed and pretend that didn't happen. But I understand why WWE has the highest views on those videos, because number one is, Randy Orton is a star. He is a big time star in WWE. Maybe arguably right now, the biggest star in the company from an on paper standpoint. He might be, but also Alexa Bliss is intriguing. The content itself makes you want to keep watching what the hell's going on. And it's just off the wall. It's insane stuff, which always brings eyeballs. I agree. But do I think they'll put him on as a Universal Champion again? Yeah, of course. Even WWE Champion, I can see that happening. Maybe Drew McIntyre and The Fiend go at it after WrestleMania. There's a thought for you. I don't know what beef they ever had in the past, and eventually they're going to have to drop that whole premise because he's going to run out of people to work with, as I said. But yeah, I agree, man. All right, thank you, Anthony, for your email. Please email back. I'm glad you joined us here on the show and decided to email us. Okay, next one. Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan writes in. He says he's going over a few things this week. First thing is AJ Styles. I think everyone is sleeping on him. Have you noticed since Omos has been by his side, he hasn't lost a singles match? The only matches he has lost is TLC versus Drew and The Miz and the Elimination Chamber match. You said in your Raw review that AJ and Randy's match was a non-finish, but actually AJ won the match with a phenomenal forearm 1-2-3 due to Alexa Bliss. Yeah, oh, you're right. Yeah, I don't know how the hell I missed that. Thank you for the correction. Sometimes I just say stuff. I think the non-finish, I don't know where I honestly don't know where I got that. Thank you, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan. Good God. Sometimes I'm just on fumes at the end of the day. So you say, I could see AJ having one more run as champion, no time soon, but in the future. So your first point, yes. Not only thank you for the correction, am I misspeaking on the Raw review, but yes, I could see AJ Styles, and he should have one more run. I believe you that Omos, since he's been by his side, has not lost a singles match. I believe you. And I think that's something worth noting that no one's talking about. But I don't know what Vince believes, what Vince sees. I hope it's another run with AJ. I would love AJ Styles to have another monster run before his career is, he calls it a day. I'm on board for Omos and AJ. The pairing is really good. I love them together. Next, I believe one of the Kyle's has a point. Got it. If I can speak tonight. Some wrestlers you like regardless of being a heel or face. Example, I loved and cheered for The Undertaker as a heel or face. It didn't matter to me. And I hate Randy Orton no matter what. He could be the face of the company, and I wouldn't cheer for him. So I do think sometimes for some wrestlers, heel or face doesn't matter. If they're your favorite wrestler, you'll cheer for them regardless. Stone Cold's your favorite. Did you cheer for him when he was a heel or in working with Vince? So, okay, to that point, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan, I agree that there are wrestlers, for some fans, I think it's not a large percentage, that whether they're heel or face, you love them regardless. I had friends like that. They love Triple H regardless of heel or face. However, again, I think that's the minority of fans that would cheer for that individual, cheer for that character, whether they were dastardly or whether they were beloved. You would cheer for them. I think that's a very small percentage. You know how I know that's a small percentage? When we had fans in an arena and we'd have a heel turn, most of the time you would hear boos rather than cheers. I know that in recent years it's been kind of screwy with the way that fans have reacted, but I think it's also telling to creatives' lack of ability to make a true heel hated and a true babyface liked. But when we look at heel turns, generally heel turns and babyface turns go successfully, generally, with some big exceptions. But most fans, I think, go along with the ride. And when you see somebody do something that you don't like or is underhanded or is just disgusting, despicable, you boo that. So I agree that, yeah, there are people that look at certain wrestlers and go, yeah, I don't care what they do. I'm going to love them no matter what. And to answer your question, did I cheer for Stone Cold when he was working with Vince? I didn't know what to do. And I think a lot of fans felt that way, and you heard it. It was a lot of just kind of like noise, scattered boos, scattered cheers. People didn't know what the F to do with Stone Cold, and I was kind of the same way. It was just kind of like, no, man, that's not who you are. So I was booing his character because I knew that's not what he was meant to be. Not because it was somebody I wanted to see get his ass kicked. It was just a character that I go, no, this is not who you are. Can we get past this and go back to a babyface? That's really what I think most fans felt. And including myself. So you continue. You asked me last week if Bobby should beat Drew at WrestleMania and how long he should be champion. You say, I believe Bobby should beat Drew and would love for Bobby to hold the belt at least until Rumble 2022. I can't argue with that. I've been an advocate of Bobby being champion for a long time. The problem is, as I always say, whose opinion matters the most? Mr. VKM. You know who that is, right? Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And do I see Mr. McMahon allowing Bobby Lashley to hold the belt for almost another year? Probably not. Getting through WrestleMania, which is another massive hurdle. Getting through SummerSlam. Getting through Survivor Series. Oh, wait, that pay-per-view doesn't matter because it's never about championships. It's all about bragging rights. Getting through all these major pay-per-views and then somehow being able to make it to next year's Rumble. Ugh. I hope it happens. I have my doubts, though. I just don't think Vince will have really have the drive to do that. I don't. So you say, at WrestleMania, I would love both Bobby and Roman to retain. Agreed. 100%. Please don't let Edge win in big, bold letters. It's going to be... Okay, I know you're not an Edge fan. I'm struggling with this. I'm a massive Roman Reigns heel fan, but I'm a massive babyface Edge fan. Where do my loyalties lie? I think ultimately it's going to lie with Roman as a babyface or Roman as a heel, because heels like this do not come along very often. We see big babyface returns. They're a dime a dozen. I shouldn't say that. They're not that cheap, but they're more common than massive, successful heels. They're rare. So with that said, and Edge is a legacy star that's not going to be here long. It should be about the talent that's here. And so I'd go with Roman. I agree. Okay, you say the Hurt Business should retain the tag titles. The Street Profits should win the SmackDown tag titles. Big E should drop the IC title to African Apollo. No. It's Nigerian Apollo. Sure. Yeah, African Apollo works. I'm on the fence about Matt Riddle. Thank you for saying Matt in big bold letters. Matt Riddle retaining or dropping. The 24/7 title should change hands 24 times during the show. What are you doing to me, man? Stop it. You love the 24/7 title. Well, good for you. If they dedicate that much airtime to this championship, I don't know if I'll be able to make it through the show. Maybe if they did it as a blow-off. I mean, if they did it as the final night of the 24/7 title where it's defended 24 times, God bless them. Have at it. I'll deal with the pain once and then I'll be done with it. Okay. You continue to say, I would have Rhea Ripley win the Raw Women's Championship. Totally. I can't wait till she's champion. Yes. By the way, is she heel or face? She looks like a monster heel. And of course, Sasha drops the SmackDown Women's Championship. She sucks as a face. Thank you. Finally, we get somebody who agrees that Sasha is terrible as a babyface because she's naturally, as a person, a heel. You don't believe me? Go watch the Stone Cold Broken Skull sessions with Sasha Banks. She exposes her heel personality as a real person. She comes across arrogant many times throughout that interview. And she's not putting on an act. She's not playing her character. That's who she is. But Rhea Ripley, is she heel or face? I don't think they've decided yet. She got a massive reaction at the Rumble, but that's because it's the Rumble and people are excited to see her. But she's not involved in any storyline yet. I don't know. I think she could go either way. I really do. Your last point, Ric Flair. I've been watching old Ric Flair matches and promos from the 80s. Nobody, and I mean nobody, delivers a promo like the Nature Boy. He draws you in, high energy, flamboyant. You believe everything he says because it's true. He literally lived his gimmick. And he wasn't a great wrestler, or even a good wrestler, but he knew nothing. He knew wrestling psychology. He knew people paid to see him get beat up, and he gave them that. Then by hook or crook, win and make everyone mad again. And the way he sold was incredible. He made his opponents look strong, which made him look even better when he won. So in my opinion, Ric Flair is the greatest wrestler of all time. Don't get me wrong, I think The Undertaker is the greatest gimmick of all time. But the Nature Boy is one of a kind and will never be duplicated. So let's give a woo. I can't do it. My voice will crack and it'll be embarrassing. But we all know what Rick says. Yes, that's all I got for this week. Thanks, Casual Wrestling Fan. Always really good insight, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan. And yeah, Ric Flair, I don't really talk about Rick that much. I'm glad you went back and watched his old stuff. I think a lot of wrestlers today and fans can benefit from the education that he could give you through the network. Seriously, I'm totally with you on that. I mean, I do remember some promos from Rick. I didn't live through the 80s watching wrestling. I was barely, out of my mom's womb in the 80s, but I'm very privy to who Ric Flair is, obviously, and I understand some of the great promos he's had, like Dusty Rhodes. I mean, there's another one, right? The son of a plumber. We all know the famous promo from Dusty Rhodes. There's another one that, if a promo school was ever given, or a promo class was ever given, that should be the first thing that they show. I mean, it's so inspiring. It's great. And that's what I think is missing today, is just genuine promos, as we all know. Okay. Let's see here. Two more emails very quickly. They're quick, I promise. From Dennis. Says, "Hi, Matt. I'm a recent listener to the podcast. You called me Michael, but I'll let it slide. I know what you meant. I've been called worse." So, to answer your question, I think the last time the World Championship match started off Raw was Triple H versus Jericho a couple of years ago. Maybe. I'll take you at face value. I wouldn't say a couple of years ago. This has to be, it couldn't be a couple years ago. It had to be maybe a couple decades ago. I remember when Jericho beat Triple H and Earl Hebner screwed Triple H, and Jericho was champion for like 5 minutes, and they made the referee Earl Hebner scratch that from the record that it ever happened and all that. And I think that was like 2000 though. So Triple H versus Jericho a couple of years ago. If it really was a couple of years ago, I really don't remember it. It couldn't have been. I would think a couple decades ago. But thank you. I really will look into that, because I thought that stat didn't exist. So thank you, Dennis, for your input. Okay. Last one, guys. Last email. This is from Gustavo. He says, "Hey, Matt, hope all is well. I've read several reports that the original plan for the whole Lacey Evans and Charlotte Flair angle was for Lacey to beat Asuka at WrestleMania, at Elimination Chamber, and for Lacey to go into Mania as Raw Women's Champion and face Charlotte. The outcome wasn't specified, but I assume Charlotte would have captured the belt at Mania. Do you think the storyline would have been a little bit more interesting had this happened?" It's tough to say. It's hard, because Lacey Evans is a character that you knew that she was with Ric Flair for a reason beyond just insanity. And then she announced that she's pregnant, which I guess we're all supposed to believe is actually true now. I mean, because she's been off Raw for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks now. I would think that's true. Obviously not Ric Flair's real son or real daughter, who, inside Lacey Evans, we know that. But if it was going to be actually Lacey Evans to beat Asuka at Chamber and then Lacey versus Charlotte, I don't think that would have been as interesting. Because I think fans looked at this storyline as plain stupid. Right? Like, who cares that Ric Flair's with Lacey Evans? And why should Charlotte care that her dad, who's his own man, can make his own decisions of who to flirt with, who to sleep with, because he's a grown-ass man. A grown-ass old man. And yes, he's on Charlotte Flair's time, which she cut a great promo on. But I don't think there's a lot of, I want to see Lacey get her ass kicked by Charlotte. I didn't feel that way. I just felt like Rick needs to go home. And that's exactly what Charlotte told him. Asuka, though, versus Charlotte, to me, quality-wise, the match would be much better than a Lacey versus Charlotte. And storyline-wise, we have a much better foundation for Asuka versus Charlotte than we do Lacey versus Charlotte. Because what do we have on Lacey or Charlotte? Like, what's there? Oh, she slept with my dad. Okay, great. So did like 1,000 other women. I mean, what are we going to do? Have matches with all those women too? So Asuka, though, was when you look at the foundation, Asuka versus Charlotte happened, a few years ago at WrestleMania, and Charlotte broke Asuka's streak. And Charlotte took the SmackDown Women's Championship from Asuka a mere 2 or 3 weeks before WrestleMania 35, which put her in the main event for the first time ever. The women were the main event. I mean, there's things that they can draw on that would make a hell of a lot more sense than Lacey versus Charlotte. So, long answer short, Asuka versus Charlotte is infinitely more entertaining from multiple levels than Lacey versus Charlotte. So, thank you, Gustavo, for your email. Much appreciated. Okay, let's get to those wonderful voicemails that you guys send us. And you can also send one to me, too. You can do that at realwwepodcast@gmail.com, or you can call us at 518-952-0247. So, we are going to now get into, as you hear me clicking away here, get to those voicemails. And let's start it off with, I believe this is Chris.
Hey Matt, it's Chris from Cesaro Country. Yeah, he's getting finally his well-deserved push. I'm very happy for him, and maybe and hopefully a constant one to WrestleMania next year. Who knows? Maybe he's beating Bobby Lashley next year for the title, but yeah, let the Swiss dreams happen. I have some thoughts to your thoughts about the women's titles, and Anthony DiMarco someday brings it up that we have too much titles, and of course we have too much title matches, especially in the weeklies. We should have much more less about them or from them. Maybe unify the tag team titles completely, just one for both brands in women's and for the men. But then, what about the problem? Maybe you make just one women's division and do it on Raw or on SmackDown, and the tag team division do it on also Raw or SmackDown. And only tag titles or general title matches on the pay-per-views forever, I would say. Or maybe 1 or 2 weeks in a year you can make maybe on the weeklies. But keep it damn special and build it up. And like I said in my last mail to you, I missed the big, cool stories without titles involved. Yeah. I mean, Undertaker has a lot of that storylines in his past before he retires, and has awesome storylines who has nothing to do with titles, and yeah, I miss them pretty much. Because a real superstar is only a real superstar or a great wrestler or great character if he can be interesting. Of course, booking is important, but also when has not a title and is still interesting. Triple H was also one guy, or Stone Cold against The Rock. It was not for the title, and it was still very, very interesting. Yeah, I missed that. Good stories. Thank you for the story. Sorry for my bad English, and that's why I am still a bit shy to have a show with you, because my English is not that pretty well. Maybe the listeners wouldn't understand that pretty much. Take care, Matt. I listen to you and talk to you soon. Take care.
Hey, Chris. Well, don't worry about your English. I think everyone understands you very well. Trust me, I've heard a lot of voicemails in my day and talked to a lot of people in wrestling and had people on the show throughout the years. And trust me when I say that you are by nowhere near unintelligible. I think everyone can understand you just fine. And anytime you want to come on the show, let me know. Obviously, it's an open invite. So what I'm going to talk about here, I mean, I know that you talked about some other things, but I want to focus on your point about the championships and too many of them, and your thoughts about unifying the tag titles and one women's division. Okay, unifying the tag titles, give me a hell yeah. I mean, please. I think unifying the tag belts so we have one team that floats between brands would be awesome, because the tag titles are such an afterthought, not just for the women, but for the men. And having the women's tag titles float between the brands is working, I think, for as good as it can. And I think it speaks to the fact that even floating between three brands, they're still having trouble finding teams to face Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. That's kind of sad. But unifying the men's, yes. I'm not saying we should get rid of the brand split, but unifying those tag belts should be, I think, a thing that maybe they do at WrestleMania. Having one women's division on Raw or SmackDown, I think no to that. And the reason I say that is because WWE has been making a movement for several years now of give divas a chance, and the women's revolution, the women's evolution. I think it would send the complete opposite message to fans that want to see more of the women to only get to see them on one brand, and they're only on one show. I think that fans would lose their minds. And you know what? I understand why, because you're trying to showcase the women who deserve some, not all the women, but some women deserve more spotlight than they're getting. You want to be able to provide them with the hope that, women are evolving, that they are becoming a bigger part of the show, as long as it's deserving and not just because they're women, right? Like I'm not a big fan of just because you're a part of a certain group, you should automatically get benefits of that group. You should earn them. I want everyone to earn things. That's how things work. So I don't think one women's division on Raw or SmackDown is a good idea, because people, it would send the complete opposite message to fans, and I don't know if that would really be the best thing. But one last thing about your too many title matches. I mean, I've been screaming about that for a long time now, and it's been getting worse. I mean, WWE has over the last, I should get a number on this. Over the last 6 months, I'd love to know the number of title matches they've given away on Raw or SmackDown. And yes, they have title changes on Raw and SmackDown. They changed the WWE title twice on free TV. Over the last, 3-4 months, Drew McIntyre won it from Randy Orton, and then we got Bobby Lashley beating The Miz. That's unheard of. We should be shocked by this. We should feel like, oh my God, that happened on Raw? What? A title change on Raw? And instead we're like, oh yeah, Bobby Lashley beat The Miz. It's cool, Bobby's champion, but it's not. We're not talking about how special it was that he beat him on Raw. We're talking about that Bobby Lashley won, and it's great. But no one's even discussing the fact that, oh my God, we got this on free TV. Same with Drew McIntyre beating Randy Orton several months ago, winning back the WWE Championship. The reason I think that there's so many championship matches is twofold. Number one, they're trying to get as many eyeballs on the product as possible right now, given the circumstances and no fans there. And they're trying to keep things as interesting as possible, create as much buzz on social media as possible that, oh my God, they're having this title match, of which, of course, we all know the more of something you have, the less valuable it becomes. That's true across anything ever in life. But the other more important, I think, reason for this massive uptick in championships being defended on free TV, and this is again a trend over the last really couple years. I know that COVID has certainly expedited this or magnified this problem. It's the simple inability for creative and the wrestlers and management, kind of a all inclusive here. All parties involved are using championship matches as a patch, as a mask, as a facade for their inability to tell good stories. That's all it is. It's a superficial way to cover their inability to create compelling characters, to create compelling storylines, engaging storylines, believable storylines, and they don't have the faith in creative to do it, so they use a superficial method of trying to get eyeballs on the product, which is championship matches, which you're doing more damage long-term than they realize, because you're telling the fans that they don't need to get the pay-per-views. They don't need to get the network. They're going to get free championship matches every week. And yeah, we're actually going to allow championships to change hands on free TV. It is doing more long-term damage than WWE, I think, realizes it. Even though their goal is still to get more people to watch it, it's exposing their lack of ability to tell good stories from all levels. That's what it is, I think. So, thank you so much for your question and questions, Chris. Much appreciated. And let's get to that next voicemail.
Hello, my name is Mr. DV. I'm calling from Tuba City, Arizona. My question is, how cool would it, well, I don't know if it's a question, but wouldn't it be cool if Way Wyatt and Randy Orton's feud, gets over at WrestleMania? What do you think about Way Wyatt getting his family back together, but in a whole new way with Alexa Bliss? Maybe even have Strowman back and going against the Hurt Business, since the Hurt Business will have all the gold. Well, I just want to put that out there and see what's your thoughts on that, because I think that would be pretty cool. Maybe I'm just, fan booking or something, but man, I think I would like to see, the Fiend and his faction go against the Hurt Business, and I think you can really build that up to something really sweet. All right, man. I love the show. I'm a first-time caller, so keep doing a good job. Thanks.
Hey, Mr. DV, thank you for being a first-time caller. I hope that you call back. The little theory you have here isn't bad. I think that Bray Wyatt having a family back may not be a bad idea. Now, it could get a little bit muddy if he still has his three characters and Alexa Bliss is still hanging around, and then he brings in Braun Strowman. Maybe. At the same time, Braun Strowman is on SmackDown. And he's on SmackDown, so how are we going to get Braun Strowman to Raw? I mean, WWE doesn't care. They don't follow their own rules for a week, much less, after several months of the brand split, they'll find a reason to bring him to Raw. So assuming they can bring him to Raw, perhaps he does, because they've already had a program. Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt have had a program. Braun Strowman changed, and he turned heel. Now he's kind of back to babyface, but still kind of a dumb heel. Or dumb babyface, as Shane put it, he's stupid, I guess. I don't know. The whole thing's ridiculous. But them against the Hurt Business, yeah. The Hurt Business, they have a program right now, but it's not really a program, right? Like Retribution doesn't count. Retribution are completely irrelevant. I don't consider them real sentient human beings. I mean, they are just there as like warm bodies to take pinfalls. I'm with you though. The Hurt Business need a real program. At the same time, if they're going to split it off as Bobby as the leader, the CEO of the Hurt Business, and Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander as the tag champions, and they kind of do their own thing, and Bobby does his own thing. I mean, you could, but they feel very like kind of segregated, don't they? I agree. Like, why don't we bring the Hurt Business back together? They're together, but they're not. And let's let them face a group that's worth fighting for or fighting against. So I like that. That's not bad. All right, let's keep rolling.
Hey, hello. This is Mr. DV again, calling from Tuba City, Arizona. I just want to clarify some things that I said. I bet I'm a little tired, pulled a 12-hour shift. So anyway, here we go. So what I would like to happen is to have The Fiend, in his new getup, defeat Randy Orton at WrestleMania. And then after that's squashed, I would like to see The Fiend, Bo Dallas, and Strowman get the Wyatt family back together, with their new gimmick, and give Strowman a stronger role, and have Bo Dallas go for the tag team titles while Bray Wyatt goes after Bobby Lashley after Mania. I think that would be pretty cool. So, yeah, man, like I said, I love the show. Gave it a 5-star review on my Apple phone. I subscribed. Awesome. Keep doing good work. Thanks.
All right. Well, since you gave us a 5-star rating, I'll give you a second voicemail. How about that? So I'm glad you clarified a little bit more here about Bobby Lashley versus The Fiend after Mania. I agree that could be very, very compelling. I'm just concerned about how you'd book it, because The Fiend's untouchable, and also Bobby Lashley is. You might have to do some kind of screwy finish on that. But Bo Dallas being interjected back with Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt, and you have Alexa Bliss, That could be one hell of an evil group. Man, you're getting me all excited for something that I probably know won't happen, but it's happening in our minds, and I'm loving it. I really am. I think that once the Fiend is revealed, however he's revealed, there's got to be some kind of twisted way that he's changed physically. Maybe theme song wise, and maybe what he carries to the ring is his old mask instead of he's carrying like his old face as the cult leader, which was a really cool lamp, by the way. What he carries out as the Fiend, being his own head, is really such a cool thing. I don't know, but yeah, I like your premise. I like that idea. I really do. So keep it going. Maybe it'll catch some momentum. All right, let's keep things going, guys.
Hey, it's Kyle from Baltimore, Maryland. I wanted to first talk about, Bobby Lashley now WWE champion. I think it's a cool thing. I like it, and I hope he remains champion. And hopefully, Drew McIntyre does not win the title back at this point. He lost it twice already, and if it's like, because Drew McIntyre's kind of like Sasha Banks, where he wins the championship and loses it. Not his first time defense, but, just loses very quickly. So I just hope Lashley will stay the champion for a while. There's that. Second thing is that Sasha and Bianca going after tag team championships again. They either going to have to win or have a disqualification, because neither woman should end up taking the pinfall or a submission loss, because that's stupid. So either they win the titles or Sasha turns on Bianca, one of the two. So that's how I see it. But thanks for the call. Bye.
Kyle, thank you again for calling in, as always, every week. The whole deal with again, they are automatically given another women's championship, tag team championship opportunity of Sasha and Bianca Belair teaming together to face Asuka and Nia Jax. We weren't explained how this happened, how they earned it. I don't know. And the Riot Squad, I believe, didn't they earn a championship match? Or somebody mentioned earlier in the show, in one of my emails, that somebody else actually, was it Lacey Evans? Maybe it was the Riot Squad that actually earned a championship match that no one ever talked about. But these two just get an opportunity. And we all know what the real purpose of this is. We all know the real purpose of this match that was set up for really no reason and set up without explanation was that it's simply to get Asuka and Charlotte to show tension. One's turning on the other. Somebody will shove somebody down. They'll get into a brawl. I'm still of the belief that, and I'm going on record on this now, that Asuka is going to be the one to turn on Charlotte, and it's going to be a heel Asuka versus a babyface Charlotte going into WrestleMania to change things up. I think that's where they're going, personally, which I love. But this is all this is for Sasha. Sasha and Bianca Belair. The only purpose of this is to get these two. Did I say Sasha and Asuka? Or I'm sorry, Asuka and Charlotte. I am all over the damn place. I still believe Asuka and Charlotte are going to be the one to face each other at WrestleMania. I meant Sasha and Bianca. I'll get there, guys. I'm fading. I'm fading. It's very late. But Sasha and Bianca, there is no reason for them to get a tag team title match, but it's just to set them up to blow up at one another. And it should be Sasha turning on Bianca. I was not a fan of Bianca's kind of just attitude when she came in as a baby face that was really acting like a heel. I've really warmed up to her. She's been in some weird segments over the last several weeks. Like the Ding Dong Hello thing was kind of weird. And, but ultimately it should be Sasha, who's a natural heel, turning on Bianca Belair going into WrestleMania. That's the only purpose of this match. It's not really about the women's tag team title belts. It is simply about getting us to the tension between Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. Period. End of subject. That's all. So, okay, guys, let's keep this going. Just a few more, and we'll wrap the show up.
Hey, Matt, it's Kyle from New York again. And first thing I want to say is what you said last week in last week's mailbag about the Sasha Banks heel turn. I totally agree with you. I didn't even think of that. I could definitely see that happening. The whole thing you said last week about, Bianca Belair winning the title and Sasha hugging her like, oh, you did great, and then, bam, heel turn. Yeah, I could definitely see that happening, just flattening out Bianca Belair. And also, I get what you mean. You said last week, both Kyles think I hate Sasha. No, I know you don't hate her. I understand what you mean. I still like her character, but at the same time, I definitely understand what you're like. I get what you're saying about her, like how you feel about her. It makes sense. And like I said, like 2 weeks ago, I think I still do like her more as a heel. I agree with you on that. She's a better heel. And I think it's gonna be a great match too between her and Bianca. And anyway, I won't talk about Sasha again. I've talked about her. Probably like the last 3 mailbag voicemails now. So I thought of something else earlier today before I made this call. So shocking betrayals happen at WrestleMania sometimes, right? I thought of something. If Damian Priest and Bad Bunny, by the way, don't worry, you're not the only one who didn't know who Bad Bunny was. I didn't know who he was either until he appeared to our Royal Rumble, the Booker T song. I didn't know who Bad Bunny was either. Don't worry. And I agree exactly with what you've been saying about him. I don't care about his music. I mean, he has good music, great, but like, I don't need to like focus on that when I'm watching a wrestling show and not a music show. Like, everything you've said about Bad Bunny so far, I completely agree with. Anyway, if the rumored tag team match happens at WrestleMania between him and Damian Priest versus Miz and Morrison, I thought of something. What if Miz and Morrison break up? I just thought of that earlier. Like, what if they actually break up this team? I doubt it's going to happen, but if it does happen, do you think Miz will be more serious? I've noticed when Miz is alone, sometimes he has more serious promos. Sometimes, not a lot, but sometimes. If he's not with Morrison, he's way more serious. And if Miz has been basically a heel his entire career, he screams heel. So I think what they should do is like, he should be the heel, him and Morrison start feud, Morrison should be the babyface. That's what I think. Morrison should be the babyface, Miz should be the heel. And Miz can actually have serious promos, and I think him and Morrison can have a fun program. So, yeah, what do you think? And also, maybe if, like, Morrison wins the U.S. title from Matt Riddle, so used to WWE corporate stuff. Just like, I'm sick of hearing the word momentum, just like you. I'm used to saying Riddle because of corporate, sorry. Anyway, what I was saying was, what if Matt Riddle loses the U.S. title to Morrison, and maybe Morrison and Miz can have a U.S. title match? That could be fun if Morrison defends against the Miz and babyface Morrison, heel Miz. So yeah, do you think this is actually going to happen at WrestleMania? I could see it happening, but at the same time I also don't see it happening because I feel like WWE's going to be like, we can't break this team up. Everyone loves this team. So Vince McMahon would probably be saying like, oh, well, how are we going to push these guys as single stars? They're born to be a tag team, even though they would probably be better off on their own, not as a tag team. And it'd also be better off if at WrestleMania, Bad Bunny leaves and never comes back again. I hope that happens at WrestleMania. Bad Bunny can leave and never come back. Anyway, yeah, that's it. Hopefully you played the second email. Voicemail. You might have not even played it because I sent 2 in a row. But hopefully you did, because I got cut off. If you didn't, it's fine, no worries. But if you did, thank you. And yeah, I'll talk to you next week. That's it. Bye.
Hey, Kyle. Well, surprise, I did play it. I actually lumped your 2 voicemails together and made it try to sound like one single voicemail. So how about that? You're welcome. But, boy, you bring in something interesting here with the Miz and Morrison. As much as I despise them, there's nobody that despises Miz and Morrison as a team more than I do. I really believe that in my heart of hearts. I'm okay with them splitting. I would love it. And it's, look, I have nothing against either man inside the ring. Inside the ring, especially Morrison. I have nothing against them at all. And if they're going to split, Miz should be the heel. Miz as a heel, being serious, can be compelling. I know that all the destruction and bad-mouthing I've done and criticism I've created and given you guys, and you've heard me talk about over the last several months and months and months about Miz and Morrison, when they're together, that's what I'm talking about. When they're apart, things change. Things change when they're apart. You know what? I'd be all for that. Now, would Vince be all for that? That's the problem. Because I think Vince views them as this comedic duo. Again, once Vince sees comedy, look out. I mean, seriously, I would be the most serious guy around Vince. I would never show him any comedy because once he sees a seed of comedy, he's going to make it your gimmick forever. So I have my doubts that they'll do that because I think he feels the Miz TV segments are entertaining, and they're not. Miz alone is more entertaining than Miz with Morrison. It's really addition by subtraction in this case. And if they're going to break them up, I would love to see it. I think the Morrison should be the babyface, and I'd like to see a serious Morrison. And they could face each other for the U.S. title. I think that is, that's fine. All the crap that I've talked about, if they played this scenario out, I think that is actually something I'd get behind. It's just the sophomoric, constant need to try to have bad comedy on a show that always has a Miz TV or a Dirt Sheet. Which, I mean, tell me the difference. I'd love to know that. Tell me the difference between Miz TV and Dirt Sheet. The Dirt Sheet. What's exactly the difference again? So I don't know. Plus, they had the other thing is they don't have a whole lot of tag teams. So do you want to really eliminate another one? I guess Vince doesn't care about tag teams. So I think the argument for it is better than the argument against it. So I like your suggestion, Kyle. Thank you for calling in, and hopefully we'll hear from you next week.
Hey, it's the Waz. It's been a little while. Just had a few thoughts. Love that Lashley finally got his title. Thank God that Miz is out of the picture. Hopefully that stays away. He stays away for a while. Just a couple thoughts I want to throw out there with how they're doing the pay-per-views. This pay-per-view every single month is kind of tiring. And I just had an idea in hopes that maybe somebody in WWE is actually listening to this podcast. Or if you get some talking that we'll get back to WWE. I don't know. It's all hopes and dreams, I know. But anyways, I thought I'd just throw this out there. Well, NXT has their own pay-per-views. And they're supposed to be their own brand. Every once in a while, they show up at a major pay-per-view, and they're a part of it in some way, shape, or form. I want to suggest maybe they could consider doing quarterly big-time pay-per-views. So your four biggest, everybody goes. All the brands are there. All out, everything, great. But then let Raw have its own pay-per-view. And let SmackDown have its own pay-per-view. Just like NXT has their own pay-per-view. And so let that break down. So we don't have, then Raw can really tell a story, or SmackDown can really tell a story through a pay-per-view. It's just their people. I don't know, maybe they don't have enough talent and they don't feel like they could do that, but I feel like if NXT could do it, surely SmackDown and Raw can have their own pay-per-views. Just an idea, just want to throw it out there, and hear what everybody thinks. And like I said, probably no one's going to ever know about this besides you guys, but just want to throw it out there. Take care, guys.
Hey, Waz. Great to hear you back. I feel like it has been several weeks, so it's good to hear your voice again. So, boy, that's a hell of a suggestion, and as you were talking, I was weighing the pros and cons of this in my mind. The pros of this suggestion where you would have quarterly pay-per-view events. Again, the quarterly pay-per-view events would happen for Raw separately from SmackDown. Maybe one could be a week away from the other, or you could just do it on the same night, which then why wouldn't you just do it on the same pay-per-view? I'm more for, not overcomplicating it with separate brand pay-per-views. I know WWE in the past has tried the whole brand-specific pay-per-view, and it got even muddier and murkier than just doing a single pay-per-view with both brands' matches on it. So that's the part that I would probably revise, is just do a quarterly pay-per-view, but do it with both brands on it. Because I think that makes that build to the 3 months even more enticing than its own separate pay-per-view for each. I know what you mean, and I'm all for brand splits, but WWE has done this in the past, and it really stretches the card thin. And I think fans would rather just see one pay-per-view rather than two. That said, The quarterly pay-per-view idea, I'm all for. I don't think WWE will do it. I think it helps with network subscriptions, maybe. Now that they're giving away free championship matches and championship changes on TV, free TV, do they really need it? Does Peacock really need that? Is there any evidence, any data to support the fact that pay-per-views are actually the biggest key success factor in people signing up for the network? Is that really what's enticing people to sign up for the network? Or is it just all the other content? I would venture to guess it's probably mostly the other content, because pay-per-views, again, outside of the big ones, I don't think people specifically sign up to see like Backlash, right? Or if they do a free trial and then they go away, and then they create a new email and get a new free trial. Like, look, we've all done that before with other services that I won't mention. But I like the quarterly idea. It allows programs to build. It allows anticipation to build. It makes pay-per-view events seem really special. But here's the problem that I think they would have to overcome. They would have to overcome sticking to a damn plan for 3 months. They can't stick to a plan for 3 hours. I'm talking about creative. How many times we hear about Vince tearing up the script the day before the pay-per-view, the day of the pay-per-view, or the day of the show, hour before the show? You think they're going to be able to stick with something for 3 months? That's my problem. I would love it, but I don't think WWE has the discipline to do it. And they'd have to stay away from championship matches to make it feel more special for that pay-per-view. You'd be putting a lot of eggs in one basket, but it may not be a bad idea. I think it's worth exploring. It does get exhausting with the number of pay-per-views that WWE has. It does get exhausting. And a lot of times it's a 2 to 3 week turnaround. It's insane. Very rarely do we get more than a 3 week turnaround for a pay-per-view. This month, I mean, we did get a 4 week gap between Chamber and Fastlane. So that's good. But more often than not, it's about 3 weeks between pay-per-views. And it is exhausting. It's saturation. It's information overload, and it makes the events feel not special. So I don't think they'll ever stray from their model. I think they've got their model in place and they feel like it works. But NXT does it. AEW does it. And I think it's very successful. And you're like, oh, wow, they're having a pay-per-view event. It's got to be big. That's how you feel about those two with NXT and AEW. Whereas you hear WWE Raw, the main roster, you're like, oh, another pay-per-view, huh? What's on it? Cool. Who's on it? We know. You feel kind of, you always know one's right around the corner, so you don't care too much. You don't have a lot of an investment. So, Waz, I like the idea. I just don't think WWE will commit to storyline for 3 months. I mean, I have my doubts. And it would be a big, big change in creative and their business model. I don't think they're willing to uproot their perceived successful model that they have of the pay-per-views every 3 weeks. I don't think they think that that's a good idea, because they feel they have something in place that works, and they're too afraid to stray from it. But I'm with you, man. I'm totally with you. I think that'd be freaking awesome. So, all right, guys, we have reached the end of our mailbag show. Another hour and 10 minutes roughly have gone by with your emails, your calls, and feel free, if you're a first-time caller and you're a little shy, or you just want to leave a voicemail for us and get yourself on the show, 518-952-0247, or email us realwwepodcast@gmail.com. So that concludes my voice for this week. So you will not hear me until Sunday night. I'm going to try to get a co-host on this week to talk about the weekend review. So between now and then, you have Zach Smith covering NXT. You have Mimi Burris covering AEW. You have Michael Ritter covering SmackDown. You have Anthony DeMarco covering WWE rivalries on Friday. And then Mimi's back again doing her highs and lows of the week on Sunday night, or rather Saturday night, early Sunday morning. And then, of course, Sunday night, we'll be doing our big weekend review flagship show right here, as if there would be anywhere else. So, all right, guys, if you want to support the show, head on over to www.podcast.com, click on that Amazon banner, and it just redirects you to Amazon and gives a little bit back to the show of whatever you buy. Or go to Patreon and be a subscriber. Get rid of those ads. Get rid of those pain-in-the-ass ads, and head on over there. And for $1, you get all of our shows ad-free, everything. So not too shabby. All right, everybody. Thank you again for listening. It's much appreciated. Continue to support us by heading over to Apple. Give us a 5-star rating and review. Tell a friend. And that's really how this show grows, is because of you. So thank you, everybody. I'll talk to you next time.